Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. It is Q&A Tuesday. First, I want to send a shout out to a lovely viewer of mine, Sophia. Thank you so much for suggesting that I turn the camera to the side to film the episodes. You guys know I am not technologically advanced, okay? So I appreciate the tech tips, all right? Anything that will make my videos look a little bit better. And yes, I will eventually start to invest in other things. But for right now, I'm just working with what I got. So I appreciate the suggestion. One other thing before we get into the questions is please do not use my page to advertise for programs other than the ones for AHIMA or AAPC. Those I'm totally fine with. I don't care. But there was a comment today about a program, and I'm not even going to talk about that program because to me it's not worth talking about. Please just don't use my page to advertise, you know, and I could tell this person was trying to advertise, and I don't appreciate that, okay? My page, I watch all the comments, I watch everything closely, okay? And I will remove anything that I feel is inappropriate. I've also updated my settings to make sure that this doesn't happen again. But I watch these things very closely because the information that I give out on my page is very important to me, that it comes out clean. Like the most cleanest information that I can give you, I want to come from me. I don't want some comment that somebody made, oh yes, this place is so great, this thing is so good. I don't know anything about that. So don't try to put that on my page, please. I'm just saying, okay? So that's my first thing, okay? But we're going to go ahead and dive into the questions, and I will be leaving my email address down in the description box below, so if you have any more questions, please let me know. I will be always stockpiling more questions for next week. All right, so let's go. Ready? All right, number one. Is there really a shortage of medical coding jobs because the market is so saturated? Okay, so the market may be saturated temporarily, like with all these new graduates and things like that, but it's always going to depend on the caliber of the coder. Every job you will go to for medical coding, you will have to take a test in order to gauge your knowledge and things like that. So not everybody's knowledge base is the same. So that while there may be lots of coders, there are plenty of jobs, but those jobs are for people that have a good knowledge base, you know, because like I said, you have to take this test before you go and you get this job. And then plus you have to pass like a pre-check, you know, they're going to do like a bunch of records where you have to code them out and make sure you're coding properly before you can get released into, you know, the work environment and start working from there. Most times, different facilities have different rules and different ways of doing things. But for the most part, don't worry about job saturate, like medical coder saturation, because it's going to depend on the caliber of the coder. This is why I always stress for you guys to try to learn as much as you possibly can. Try to study and know a bunch of things so that way when you do go and you apply for these jobs, you are prepared for anything and everything, okay? You got to be able to knock their socks off. That's the whole goal, okay? Number two, is there a state exam for medical coding? There is no such thing as a state exam for medical coding, okay? There are certification exams. And another thing too, there is no such thing as a board exam. I saw that today and I removed that comment. There's no such thing as a board exam, okay, for medical coding. It is a certification exam, okay? It is either through AHIMA, the American Health Information Management Association, or AAPC, the American Academy of Professional Coders, okay? This credentials that you earn through either association, they're good everywhere. There's no specific state test for a medical coder. So once you get your certification, you are good to go, okay? There's no like taking it, it's not like a nursing thing or a doctor where they have to license in every state. It's not like that, okay? It's medical coding certification is good everywhere, okay? That's the answer on that. Number three, please explain HIPAA. Okay, HIPAA stands for Health Information Portability and Accountability Act. a 1996 federal law that restricts the access to individuals' private medical information. I will be leaving a very helpful link down in the description box below about HIPAA. And the reason that this is so important is because this is going to be part of your life. When you are a medical coder, this is part of your life. You have to know about HIPAA. You have to know about PHI or protected health information. You have to know about these things. You have to know how to handle information when it is trying to safeguard it. Whenever you are either using it or talking about it, you need to make sure that you know the safeguards in order to keep these patients' information private. Okay, but yes, please read that link. I will be including it down, like I said, in the description box below. It is important to know this and know it forward and backward, okay? So that you know everything that you need to know. The really good stuff, okay? Number 4, what is PHI? It's protected health information. And I will also include that link. There's a link specifically for that. And it talks about PHI and it talks about understanding PHI and things like that. So I will be leaving that down there in the description box as well. Number 5, explain protecting PHI when asking coworkers for help. Okay, I got a very good question about, is it a HIPAA violation if you are asking your coworkers for help on a record? Okay, most of the time when I am getting a question, it is in a hypothetical form, okay? Basically, my coworker will say, hey, Blue, I have a question about this particular patient. This patient has X, Y, and Z, and they are getting treated with this, and their medical decision making was this. So what would this level be? This is the type of questions that I get. If it comes down to, well, I can't really give you a good answer unless I'm seeing the documentation, a lot of times it will be presented to me with the PHI, like their name and all their identifying information. It will be all blacked out, and that way I can see what I'm looking at, like the documentation wise. So when you are talking about asking a coworker and things like that, get into those good habits, get into those good practices of being able to do that, because you never know whose information is it that you're asking about, and it could be somebody that person knows. So it's always good to get into those good habits of blacking out, identifying information. And you'll see this a lot when, as you're working and going through the field, that it is important to safeguard every time, okay? If you are walking away from your desk, you need to secure that record. If you happen to have a record out or whatever, you need to secure it. You need to put it in a locked drawer if you're walking away from your desk for a little while. If you have somebody come in your office, you need to turn the paper over if you are looking at a paper, or if you've got the patient information up on the screen on your computer, you need to make sure that you're putting it down. Sometimes people will use a privacy screens on their computers, and that's really good too, because you have to turn a certain way in order to see the screen, but you can always minimize what you're looking at. So that is really very important to get into those good habits of always safeguarding that information, okay? Because you never know who knows who, okay? So that answers that one. Number 6, tips for students who have completed a medical coding program who are going to sit for the exam. How much time is needed to prepare and what ways to prepare? So sometimes people go through a medical coding program that is quite fast, okay? And because of this, sometimes they don't feel as ready to take the exam. So what happens, a good way to know if you're ready, because you could have finished your medical coding program and then now you're supposed to sit for your exam. Like, how do you know if you're ready? A good way to know is to get the exam prep book for whatever credential you're going to sit for, whether it is the CCA, the CCS, CCSP, or the CPC. Go ahead and find the exam prep book and test yourself, okay? You can find it on Amazon. Look on Amazon. Look on eBay. Look on anywhere that sells books, okay? Barnes & Noble, whoever. and look up, the practice exam book. Take the practice exam in a setting that you would feel like you are actually taking the test. Okay, some tests take 4 hours, some tests take 5.5 hours. I know with AAPC, like it's like what, 5.5 hours, something like that. And with AHIMA, it's more like 4 hours. So whatever credential you're going to take, look at the time that's allotted for that exam, and give yourself that exact amount of time, and test yourself and see if you can, how you do basically under those circumstances. Okay, and make it like it is an actual exam, so that way you can see where your weaknesses are, if you need to study more on something in particular. That way you can know to be prepared. That is my main suggestion on that one. It's really all going to depend on you, how much more time you're going to think you need to practice for the exam. If your medical terminology is weak, you really do need to spend time learning that. If your speed is a little not as up to par like it should be, you need to spend time on that, like looking up codes and things like that. I know with AAPC, you guys tab your books. With AHIMA, we do not tab our books. I mean, we have to go in with very clean books. So I never really got used to using tabs, but that's just me. And I use them occasionally, but for the most part, if I am using the book a lot, they do get in my way. So I tend to not use them. So I'm really not familiar, and I feel so bad when I say this to you guys. I'm not very familiar with using tabs in the book. For some people, they say that it makes it easier to get to the sections quicker. I don't know. If you feel like it does, and you're taking a AAPC exam, then I guess it's okay. But yes, just do the best that you can, and pay attention to whatever association you're going to go through. So like I said, if AHIMA, then your books need to be clean and there has to be no tabs. Okay, so just something to keep in mind when you are practicing. Okay, get used to practicing how it is in the actual exam. So there are many books you can check out. You can just type in whatever credential you're going to sit for, and then exam prep. Okay, so that's my advice on that one. Number 7, is age a factor in starting medical coding? No, age is not a factor. I've known people who were in their 60s. I know a woman, she was in her 60s when she started, and she's in her 70s now, and she's still medical coding. I know a young man who took his certification exam right out of high school, and he is now got his first job as a medical coder. And it took him some time, but it's okay. He got in, because he was very persistent and he didn't give up. So whether you are just out of high school or you are in your 60s, there is really no age limit when it comes to being a medical coder. So, of course, you have to be over 18, but it doesn't matter when you start. I mean, if you're really interested, you want to start. I was in my late 20s. I just happened to be in my late 20s when I started. Had I known about medical coding when I was in high school, I would have done this straight out of high school, But everything happens for a reason. Everything that you start, everything that you're doing in time happens for a reason. And it's wherever you're most prepared in your life, I think, to do it. So if you are in your 20s or in your 30s or in your 40s or even in your 50s or even in your 60s and you want to start medical coding, all I can tell you is go for it, okay? There's nobody stopping you but you. I've said this several times. There is nobody stopping you but you. And I will guarantee you that a lot of the things that you're worried about are really for naught, okay? That's just my advice on that one. All right, so next question. How many hours a week should I spend studying before or during a medical coding program? It's going to depend on you. The more you study, the more prepared you're going to be. But you have to study enough that you're not going to burn yourself out, okay? Because if you burn yourself out, then what's the point? So it really is going to depend on the individual. For me, I continuously study. Now, my study times will vary from 10 hours per week to 20 hours per week. It depends on what's going on and what I have going personally on in that week. I am a reader. I like to read. That is just what I do. I will spend time reading the New England Journal of Medicine because I subscribe to them and I get their journals like all the time. So that is why I read them. You know, I have their journals, and I have the Journal of AHIMA, which I read as well. So that's time I consider spending studying. Okay, if I'm having a hard time grasping diagnosis, I will deep dive into that diagnosis. It just depends. If you want to be more prepared, obviously you're going to need to spend more time studying. But it really is going to depend on the individual. I can't really give like a solid time. I mean, it's going to depend on you and your schedule and how dedicated you are and how much you want to be prepared. Whether you're about to start medical coding school or whether you are already in the program and you are studying already anyway. So it's up to you guys. That's the only thing I can say to that one. But there are many tricks to making studying not so arduous. You know, flashcards is a number one thing. Flashcards, and so I always suggest that. You guys may be a little tired of that already, but flashcards are the real deal. Like they're portable. You can take them everywhere with you, and then just like flip them, and then you can, you know, anybody that's in your class, you can make it into a game. There's many things you can do with flashcards, so just my suggestion on that one. All right. Number 9. Talk about relaxation techniques. Okay. So something that you're going to have to learn as a medical coder is how to self-soothe. There's going to be times when you start to panic, whether you are studying for your exam or studying, you know, for a test, like a midpoint test in your program, or whether you are at work and you are like maybe at your first job and you're like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? This is so much and I don't understand and I'm so confused and I don't have anybody to ask questions to, and you start to panic. Okay, these are things that you've got to learn how to control, and you have to learn how to self-soothe. Okay, even me, there are times that I go through this as well, but my things happen when I feel like something's about to happen in the clinic, like there's a shift or something like that. Sometimes there's just a shift in the workplace. That's what will trigger me. Not so much the coding anymore. It is more like, you know, if there's going to be a shift in the work environment, that is when I start to get like that. So one of the tips that I've sort of adopted, and I adopted it sort of from a meme that I saw on Facebook, but it was really good. And one day I just sort of thought about it because I was going through it. I was like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? And I started to like, I felt like that panic feeling, and it was just, it was getting overwhelming. And so I said, okay, let me stop and let me remember this one meme that it said to do. And I changed it because I couldn't remember exactly how it went, but I know the premise of it. So it was name 5 things I can see, 4 things that I can hear, 3 colors that I can see, 2 things that I can touch, and then the final thing was listen to yourself breathe. So as you're going through all of these things, like your mind has something else to focus on, and you can think, okay, there's 5 things I can see. I see a drawing. I see a picture of my nephew. I see I see a paperclip. I see a keyboard. I see a monitor. I see a mirror. And then it was just, and it's like, you know, the four things that I can hear. I can hear the sound of a keyboard. I can hear the sound of my friend's voice. I can hear somebody tapping their pen. I can hear a door opening. And then it's three colors I can see. I can see red, I can see tan, I can see blue. And then two things that I can touch. I can touch the desk, I can touch my chair, and then listen to myself breathe. And so as I'm working through these things, I'm able to calm myself down and just sort of take a step back and just relax. And it's not just about breathing. There's some people that can do breathing exercises very well. And when they feel themselves getting overwhelmed, they start to do that. They start to like do their breathing exercises. I'm not one of those. I can't breathe. And then if somebody tells me to just breathe, it just like you start to panic even more. So I learned that if I tell myself to, hey, we got to look at 5 things that we can see, 4 things that we can hear, and we start going through this list, it starts to get easier. Another tip to calm nerves is hard candy. Like if you have a piece of hard candy and then you're focusing, your mind can focus on this candy, and it trust me, if you ever get into like a situation where you're feeling like that, and then you take this piece of hard candy and you're like, oh, okay, and it'll get your mind off of whatever's going on, and you can focus. I had a situation where I've been in a meeting and I brought hard candy into this meeting because I knew this meeting was going to be stressful. And I put this hard candy in the middle of the table, okay? And I said, oh, please, help yourselves. Wouldn't you know, the meeting took a more relaxed tone because people had this hard candy that they could focus on. And it was just like, oh, okay. So when you're taking this in and you're learning how to ways to calm down, it really will help you to be more productive. It will really help you to focus better. Because if you have something that you're using to help you focus, it's much more beneficial for you. It's much more productive in your work environment. So I'm telling you guys, just give it a try. And whenever you start to feel overwhelmed, try those techniques. Try the countdown, like I suggested, and I'll leave it in the description box below. Or try having a piece of hard candy. And it could be anything, lifesaver or whatever. Although technically, maybe that is why it's called a lifesaver. But it works, and it really does help. So this is my opinion anyway. So, and I always say that, and it has nothing to do with this, but I have always said, if you can't say something nice, put something sweet in your mouth, like a candy, So I don't know. maybe it'll help. But yes, for a lot of people, it really does help. And sometimes you don't even realize it. So, but yes, learn what your self-soothing techniques are, and that way, maybe it'll help you. Okay. So, next question. What are RVUs? That stands for Relative Value Unit. The National Health Policy Forum has a nice white paper that can be found, and I will leave the link for that in the description box below. But yes, RVUs, every procedure, every evaluation and management code has a RVU value attached to it. And they use this information to help with understanding how productive providers are. It also helps in some cases to decide what a bonus is going to be for a doctor, or how much revenue is coming in. Okay, so there's many reasons that they use RVUs, or many ways that they use the RVU value totals. Okay, but understanding what an RVU is very important. So like I said, read that article from the National Health Policy. It is not that long. National Health Policy Forum, I'm sorry. It's not that long. It's like 5 pages. But it is very helpful, and it's got a lot of good pointers on there. So that one's that one. And then finally tonight, how long do you get to complete the AHIMA online coding basics course. 1 year from the time that you sign up and you've paid your course fee, you get 1 year to complete the program. Now, this is a self-paced program, and you have to complete it before the end of the year, the total year, so that way you can finish the program. You have to stay on a schedule, especially if you are one that maybe you have to learn to be on a schedule. You really do have to get on a schedule when you are doing a self-paced program at home, because it's real easy to sort of fall off, and then all of a sudden you're rushing. Okay, you don't want to be rushing, especially when it comes to learning medical coding. You want to be able to give yourself plenty of time to learn what you can and take your time. Okay, so you have 1 year to complete the AHIMA coding basics course if you take it. All right, so that's gonna go ahead and wrap it up for me tonight, and I will be back tomorrow for another exciting episode. But I hope you all had a great day and a great beginning of the week, because I know it's been very cold for us here. Anyway, stay warm out there, guys, and I will see y'all on the next episode. So if you are a medical coder, a medical coding student, somebody curious about the fascinating world of medical coding, a provider or a nurse, I invite you to like and subscribe and follow me on my journey in medical coding. And if this video has helped you, please give it a thumbs up, because it really will help me with the ratings. So I will see you all on the next video. Bye!